All right, how's everybody doing? Hotep, hey, this is Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. I'm a talk show host, researcher, lecturer, and writer. So it is Wednesday, July 24th, 2019, and I'm just coming on here for a minute about to teach this online course, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. So you've heard me talk about it. I want to let you know it's taking place tonight, a little after 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're about to jump on right now, waiting for some of the students to log on. So I wanted to remind you about it. You can still register for this online course. We're posting the information here. So we deal with thousands of years of history. We deal with the transatlantic slave trade, but we deal with it chronologically. We deal with ancient Egypt. We deal with the Africans known as the Moors and the 800-year occupation of Europe by the Africans known as the Moors, and the hostility and animosity that builds up against these Africans by Europeans in Europe. Some of you all saw the broadcast I did a few days ago, actually in Atlanta. I think so. I think the one I did in Atlanta Sunday night, I think that was the one where we did the African History Network show from Atlanta. I was in Atlanta for the Liberated Minds Black Homeschool and Education Expo. So normally we do the show Sundays 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time from the studios at 9-10 a.m. the Superstation. But since I was on the road and they're playing Major League Baseball, I did it from the hotel room. But when we look at the transatlantic slave trade, and how's everybody doing? Share this broadcast on your Facebook page. Invite your friends to tune in also. We'll just be here for a few minutes. Gigi, how you doing, Gigi? When we look at the transatlantic slave trade, we have to understand that this year, August 20th, 1619, this is the year of return. So a lot of African Americans are going back to Africa on trips. They're going to Ghana, especially, and we see commemorations commemorating the 400th year anniversary of enslaved Africans coming to Jamestown, Virginia. Okay. Now, contrary to popular belief, and these are some of the things that I do with an online course, this is not the first time that African people came to this land. We had already been here for tens of thousands of years. Okay. This was our land stolen from us. We were already here. Yes, the transatlantic slave trade did happen. I'm not saying it did not happen. What I'm saying is the way the transatlantic slave trade happened is not exactly the way that it has been taught, is not exactly the way that it's being taught in our schools. Okay, so if you read, first of all, read the book, The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence by Dr. David Imhotep. This is one of the books we use in the online course. Okay, he deals with the African presence in this country going back tens of thousands of years ago, at least 51,700 years ago. All right. So this was our land stolen from us. So yes, the transatlantic slave trade did happen, but you have to understand the 800-year occupation of Europe by the Africans known as the Moors, and the Moors losing control in Europe, not just Spain, but losing control. They go all throughout Europe. They go into France, they go into Czechoslovakia, Austria, Germany, England, etc. And they're intermixing with the European population and changing the complexion to various degrees of Europeans. Okay, and animosity builds up, and what's going to happen, the Moors losing power, being conquered, some of them being enslaved. We see the Spanish taking Moors into Spanish territories like Florida and South Carolina, enslaving them. This is before Jamestown, Virginia, August 20th, 1619 even happens. Okay, so we have to understand this chronology of history. So oftentimes when the transatlantic slave trade is talked about from the American perspective, the 13 colonies perspective, we're not taught about the African presence that was already here. We're not talking about the Khoisan who come from Southern Africa, and they're the ancestors to the Ainu and the Twa, and they're building pyramid mounds up and down the Mississippi River. And there were about 1 million mounds in this land that today we call the United States of America. Today they're only about 100,000 mounds. Okay, so the trick is, and how's everybody doing? Thanks for tuning in. We're only going to be here for a few minutes because I have to teach this class, and you know it's been busy. I was in Atlanta. I got back Monday night from Atlanta. Today, I was at the NAACP convention for the Democratic Presidential Candidate Forum. Okay, so there were 10 candidates. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris. You saw if you visit our Facebook fan page, the African History Network, you saw I broadcast a lot of that from Facebook, the best on Facebook Live, the best I could, and I recorded a lot of it with my video camera. So you'll see some of that when I go through and edit it. You'll see some of that on Facebook and YouTube. Okay, so it's been very, very busy. But you can register for this online course. We'll post the link again. Who has not registered for this course? It's $80. It's regularly $130. All the sessions are recorded. We do it live. All the sessions are recorded. You can watch from around the world. As soon as you register, you can watch the first 4 courses and the first 4 classes. And then there's about 36 hours of bonus content also. Okay. We give you numerous book references. We have video clips. I do a PowerPoint presentation. We also have numerous articles that I reference as well. And this is suitable for children. I would say it's PG-13. Okay. I talked to some of the people at the Black Homeschooling Conference this past weekend in Atlanta. And some of them were asking about it. So it's not vulgar. We don't do a lot of cursing, because we talk about slavery and we talk about sexual assault among African women, rape, things like that. We talk about that some within the historical context, but it's not overly graphic. Okay, so I would say it's like PG-13. Okay, so we have Gigi and who else we have here on Facebook also? Harold, just a few of the people. How's everybody doing tonight? So we see, and even today, so the Presidential Forum was moderated by April Ryan. Okay, April Ryan of American Urban Radio, and you see her on CNN almost every night. And she was posing some of the questions to some of the candidates. Governor Bill Weld, who is a Republican running against Donald Trump. I think she posed a question to Kamala Harris and Pete Buttigieg, I'm not sure. But she talked about this being the 400th year anniversary of Africans coming to this land. And in one of the recordings I did, you could hear me say that's historically inaccurate. Okay, she asked Julian Castro this question as well, because he's ran a former secretary of HUD. Even though Jamestown, Virginia, August 20th, 1619 did happen, we were here for tens of thousands of years before that. Unfortunately, most African Americans don't know this. Okay, so the way the history is taught is largely incorrect. How you doing, Harold, Craig, Ashley? How's everybody doing? And the history is taught from a perspective as if we are guests in this land, as opposed to us understanding this was our land stolen from us, and we were here before Native Americans came into existence. Okay, so this is real history, and they're not teaching this history in the schools. Okay, especially from this perspective, especially dealing with recent archaeological discoveries. Okay, so these are a lot of things that we deal with in the online course. Dr. David Imhotep's book, The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence, is just one of the many sources. This is another one, Golden Age of the Moor, edited by Dr. Ivan Van Sertima. Because tonight we'll get into some of how the Moors lost power in Europe. That's part of it. And I've got to go back and deal with some of the history dealing with why Christmas is celebrated on December 25th. I think we'll get into that tonight also. Okay, so ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. This is a 8-week, 16-hour online course. You deal with thousands of years of history. I mean, you're going to learn a lot in this online course. Okay, if you need me to post a link again, let me know. You can register for it. As soon as you register, you could join us in the class live. All the sessions are recorded, so you can also go back and watch the first 4 sessions. And there's also 36 hours of bonus content as well. So it's on sale, $80, regularly $130. You can use your family can use the registration. Okay, we know a lot of children are out of school for summer vacation, but you still want them to learn. You still want them to learn their history. This is a good opportunity to do that. And then also, I referenced the 56-page study from the Southern Poverty Law Center, Teaching Hard History American Slavery, as well. Okay, and that new study documents how the history of slavery is being totally incorrectly taught in schools across the country, and it gives recommendations on how to better correctly teach the history of slavery as well, teaching hard history, American slavery from the Southern Poverty Law Center. Okay, so you'll hear me talk more about the debate. Not the debate, it wasn't a debate, it was a forum that took place today in Detroit. NAACP. Overall, it's pretty good. Overall, it's pretty good. They were limited on time. I understand that, the time constraints. We're not able to take questions from the audience, but April Ryan did a really good job posing questions, keeping people on time as well. Roland Martin was there, so I saw Roland for a quick minute. But Roland broadcasted the whole thing. So visit Roland Martin on Facebook and YouTube. You can watch it. He broadcasted the whole forum, okay? And be sure to watch Roland Martin Unfiltered as well. If you like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show. That helps us keep broadcasting our Sunday night show. The African History Network show helps us keep doing the research, helps us stay on the air. When I have, helps me pay for travel expenses when I have to travel, because I'm going to be August 3rd. Looks like I'll be back in Atlanta for the Black Agenda on tour with Michi X and Jice Johnson. So it helps with that. And then I just got an invitation to speak at the All Black National Convention the weekend of September 29th that Dr. Boyce Watkins is doing. That's in Houston, Texas. Okay, so paypal.me/the AHN show. Okay, Janie, how you doing, Janie? All right, and if you have a quick question, go ahead and ask me a quick question. If you have that, let's see here. You might log in. Okay. Yeah, I'll be here for a couple of more minutes here. All right, but a lot of people ask the question, well, you know, why is our history and culture so important? Okay, well, your history and culture gives you your foundation, gives you your values, your interests, and your principles. Your values, your interests, and your principles. This influences your self-esteem, your self-development, your self-worth. A lot of African Americans, unfortunately, suffer from low self-esteem and low racial esteem. Some of us may have high self-esteem, but low racial esteem when it comes to our race as a group. Okay, and this is why we use negative pejorative words to describe our people, to describe our women, to describe our men, the N word, B word, all different types of things like this, because we suffer from low racial esteem. This comes from us being stripped of our history and culture and given European standards and given a European cultural paradigm that we see reality through. Your history and culture influences your economics and your politics. This is one of the things I talked about this past weekend in Atlanta at the Black Homeschooling Conference, because my presentation on Sunday was dealing with 6 principles of political self-defense, how public policy impacts the economic conditions of African Americans. All right, so I recorded that, so we'll have that on DVD the next few days as well. Look out for that at AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. But what you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you have been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. Okay, so when you have been stripped of your history and culture, where you've been bombarded with tens of thousands of images showing Europeans as being superior, intelligent, showing a European standard of beauty, and then images showing African Americans as largely being criminals or just entertainers, being ignorant, the hypersexualization of African American women, etc., a consensus starts to form. A consensus starts to form. And you start buying into an inferiority complex. There's studies that show that African-American children as young as 5 years old, because of the images they see in the media, want to be white. There was a study, there was you can go on YouTube, and I've talked about this numerous times. ABC News Nightline back in about 2014 did a story about Lupita Nyong'o from Black Panther, but before that she was in 12 Years a Slave. And this was a story done by Diane Sawyer and Deborah Norville. And it talked about how Lupita Nyong'o was named People Magazine Most Beautiful Person. But it talked about how Lupita Nyong'o, who's from Kenya, she's African, continental African from Kenya, very beautiful sister. She grew up with an inferiority complex because we understand the legacy of colonialism in Africa, is many Africans subscribing to a European standard of beauty. This is why you have a skin bleaching epidemic in certain African countries. But she talked about how when she was a child, every night she would pray to God that she would wake up light skinned. Okay, that was her prayer at night. And there was a interview that was done with a magazine, and she talked about how when she was in school, the second or third grade, something like that, a teacher told her, where are you going to find a husband as dark as you or darker than you? So she grew up with an inferiority complex, as beautiful as she is. Okay, this is a legacy of colonialism. This is a legacy of slavery. Okay, white supremacy is a global system. We have to understand this. White supremacy is a global system. And I've been doing research on the skin bleaching epidemic in Africa. We saw that, what was her name? Black China went to Nigeria. Many of you saw the video I did on this. She went to Nigeria a few months ago to promote a skin lightening or dark spot remover that is being used as a skin bleaching cream called White Tenacious. White Tenacious. Google that. Or go to our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep, and just search for Michael Imhotep Black China. Okay, because she was in Nigeria promoting this skin lightening cream to Black Africans. Face-to-faceafrica.com just had an article from about a month or two ago about how Ghana is cracking down on the epidemic of skin bleaching creams. We've seen that Rwanda, I did a story maybe about 3 months ago or something like that, dealing with Rwanda and how Rwanda is cracking down on hundreds of skin bleaching and skin lightening brands. Okay, this is an epidemic that is a legacy of colonialism. All right, so we must understand this system, and if they are suffering from this on the continent of Africa, and they speak African languages, many of them know more about their history than us. Now we have to understand a lot of Africans don't know their history prior to colonialism. Some do, but you have a lot that don't know their history prior to colonialism. That's another problem. Now they have more African culture, but unfortunately, a lot of them don't know their history prior to colonialism. Okay, as you go more into the rural areas, things like this, they tend to hold on to that more. Okay, understanding history. Now they even the ones that don't know their history prior to colonialism, they will still maintain African culture to certain extents. All right. But this, once again, is a legacy of colonialism. And when you study the impact that skin bleaching has on the continent of Africa, you see the impact that media has. Okay. There was one of the Face-to-Face Africa has an article, and we'll post some of these links when I'm done here. There was a documentary done about Senegal and the skin bleaching epidemic in Senegal. And it was, they had billboards going down a road in Senegal. They had billboards with models on it. And these were lighter skinned models. Okay. And they're showing a standard of beauty. Okay. And this is being projected to dark skinned Africans who want to emulate this standard of beauty that's being shown to them. See, you got to see, I've been studying media for 27 years. This is what I'm explaining to people. We have to understand the impact that media has and how these images travel around the world. Okay, whatever's disseminated becomes imitated. Your thoughts create feelings. Your feelings create actions and behavior. Your thoughts create feelings. Your feelings create actions and behaviors. Your actions and behaviors create results. So we have to understand the impact that media has and fight against these negative images. Okay, because they influence the way we think, feel, act, and behave. All right. Okay, so look, guys, we got to get out of here. Register for the online course. Then African American business owners also post name your business here on the thread of the broadcast. Email us at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. Customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. We'll talk more about, I watched some of the Robert Mueller congressional hearings today. Okay, so we'll talk some about that Sunday, and look out for the articles that we post also. All right. Who still needs to register for this online course? Let me know. Who we have here? Rella, Gigi, Kim. How's everybody doing? Okay. All right, and as soon as you register, you can watch the previous 4 classes. Okay, we usually do it Wednesdays. Watch from around the world. It is, we do it live and it's all recorded. So if you miss anything, that's fine. Go back and watch it over and over again. Okay. Let's see here. All right, I'm trying to see if there are any questions I need to get to. Harold, okay. Harold said, check out my company's Black Tie International Consortium, Black Paper, Accepted Devaluation of the Divine Feminine Principle. Okay. All right, and then all of this, somebody interviewed me today while I was at the, when I was coming out of the forum. And this all ties into, also tying this to R. Kelly, this ties into the adultification bias that African-American women suffer from as well, and African-American girls. Watch the video I just did dealing with R. Kelly's crisis manager resigns, okay, after saying that he would not leave his daughter with R. Kelly. Watch that. It's we put the full videos on our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP, and we'll post a link here on the thread of the broadcast. Okay, I did that on July 23rd, so watch that one, because I linked that also to adultification bias, where studies have shown, and there was a recent study that came out in May of 2019 from, was that Georgetown Law University, law school or something like that, and it talks about how African-American girls are perceived to be less innocent, to need less nurturing and less protection, and are perceived to know more about sex, okay, at a young age than white girls are. Well, that's a direct legacy from slavery, from African-American women being made as breeders, the sexual assault on African-American women. Okay, that's a direct result from slavery. All right, I'm trying to find where that study is. Hold on, where's that article? Notification bias. I think it's one of these. Okay, but we'll post that because I just had it. I had to take some articles out because I was going to the town hall today, and I had to take my tripod in my backpack. Let's see, where is that? Because I just saw it. And this also ties into the video I did 2 or 3 months ago, dealing with the research from Professor Stephanie E. Jones-Rogers that showed how about 40% of slave owners from 1850 to 1860 were white women. Okay, and how sexual assault was orchestrated against African-American women to increase the profits of slave masters, and in some cases those slave masters were white women as well. All right, Professor Stephanie E. Jones-Rogers has a book that came out in February of 2019 called "They Were Her Property." They were her property. Okay, I don't know. I'll post that later. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Okay, guys, look, I have to get out of here. We'll post a link again here. And I post a link to the video I did dealing with R. Kelly. You can register for the online course here as well. Okay. We have to get out of here. Hey, remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's corrects wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you next time. Peace.